AJ.
And Shannon. And this is Who Are We, AJ?
Go for the day.
And who do we have today?
Nathan Todd, the loneliness coach.
That's right, the one and only Nathan Todd, the loneliness coach. He's here with us today, and he is going to drop some truth bombs on y'all today because we're going to make him. Anyway, Nathan, hi, great to see you.
Hey, it's so great to see you guys, and I can't wait to see what we dive into today.
Yeah, well, we're going to dive into everything, and that's why I want you to tell everybody your story, or at least the cliff notes, and get into who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so interesting. When I think about this, because I've actually been thinking about this today from another conversation I was having. And, most of the time people come in and they talk about all these things that they've done, all these accomplishments and all these figures that make us all sound good. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm just a dude who was born 8 weeks premature at 4 pounds, 10 ounces.
Really? We have something in common. I was 4 pounds, 10 ounces, so yay.
Hey, so this is funny. So I wish I was wearing the shirt today, but I actually have a shirt that says 4 pounds, 10 ounces. So now I know there's somebody else out there that could buy it and it could match their story.
Love it. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
But yeah, I'm just a dude who was born that way and then diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the age of 2. And like that has played a big role in shaping where I'm at today and who I've become. So
And define you. Well, I like to say, I often get the question like, what would you do if you could take a pill and take away CP for the day? And I told people that ask me that, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Because like that has shaped the woman that I am, and I have embraced it. And does it suck on some days? Absolutely, it sucks. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I mean, but I have had some of the greatest experiences and been able to do some of the greatest things. And a lot of times, even people that are ambulatory can't say they've done. So I can relate to you totally on that. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's shaped who we are as people. And I think AJ can say the same, right, bud?
I sure can. I would be the person I am if I would have had CP.
Yep. And I think, all three of us can relate to, we wouldn't be the best advocates we could be if we didn't have CP. So yeah, that's just, I wanted to kind of add to what you had said there. Tell us about when you decide, define loneliness coach for us, because I know I learned, AJ and I learned about it through the CP conference that we just attended this weekend, where you were a speaker. By the way, amazing speaking skills, guys. If you haven't seen him, go like watch a conference or see him speak, because he's amazing. And we will have all your information down below in the description of the YouTube, and also on our website, DBTD Media, after the show. But I want you to define what a loneliness coach is to you and why you decided to delve into the field.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I think the first part of this journey started without me ever realizing that this was where I was going to end up. But I talk about it a lot, and it's this idea of being back on the couch and in the house, having just graduated from college. And then that's kind of when life and society and everything outside of what I had grown up to believe and be told started smacking me in the face.
Because we all have that little protective barrier around us, right? In grammar school and all of that, we have the IEPs to protect us. We have the assistants to protect us. We have the parental units But the same thing happened to me when I went off to college. I kind of got smacked in the face and was like, oh shit, this is different, because I was the girl who was always in the middle of everything despite her disability in school, had the greatest friends, was just in it all. And then I went to college, and much like you, it was like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? But I absolutely agree. And when you brought that up during your session, I was like, oh man, I can relate so much, because I was like, what am I gonna do now? And then I got my apartment and I started living independently, and things all just came together in a weird way, but in a great way too. So
And
yeah.
so it kind of started there without me realizing it. And then where it kind of started on this path of me actually calling myself the loneliness coach
Mhm.
was I was having a coaching session with one of my coaches, and he posed a question and said, what do you think is happening with all your friends that nobody's talking about? And I was like, yeah, I think we all have really surface level conversations and we fall into patterns. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are lonely, but we don't want to talk about that actually being something that we're experiencing.
Why? Because it makes us look and feel weaker, and we already are at a disadvantage with our disability, so
Yes.
we don't want to make it, we don't want to shine that brighter light on it. I don't think, at least that's
Yeah.
my take.
And the thing is though, that like, yes, our perception has a lot to do with the disability, but most of the people, when I was thinking of that and answering that question, none of them had disabilities at
Right.
all. It's a human thing. And so what do I actually do as a coach? I actually help you kind of identify who you are and uncover the real you that's underneath all these labels that have been stacked on you over time.
Yeah. Well,
You get to,
we got to talk after, because I already told you I'm signing up for your 12-week class, because boy, I'm an onion. There's a lot of layers. So
you get you get to the core of whoever you work with.
yeah. And I think that's such an amazing concept, especially, whether you're disabled or not, that anybody and everybody needs to know about, because we all have we all have those issues, and we all have those situations, whether we want to, like you said, whether we want to talk about it or not. And I just, when I heard you speak, I just was really not taken aback, but I really kind of looked at and you did an exercise, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, I can get into this. And so I totally did. And I'm like, afterwards, I'm like, whoa, like it really rocked. I had to sit back for a minute and go, wait a minute,
Whoa.
what am I really, you know, prioritizing as important in my life? Like, what am I doing? So I was, thank you for that, because it made me a little bit emotional. So it was like, wow.
Yeah, that's my secondary label as a coach. I make people cry.
Yeah. Well, I'm already the like crying bag of the show, so it's pretty easy to make me emotional. Plus, I'm a mama, so it happens anyway. But I'm really proud to know you, and I want people to know exactly, who Nathan is, and what you do, and what it's, just how's your daily life now, pre-COVID versus post-COVID? What's going on with you? What things you've got coming on? Talk to us about what life looks like now.
Yeah. So I've been on this journey for almost 4 years now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately how life kind of shifted for me was I used to work, and since there's I imagine lots of people listening that have disabilities as well, I used to work for a center for independent living.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Y'all love seals. Go seals. Right?
Yeah.
well, so here's what happened for me. At some point, I took an emotional intelligence course,
Oh,
training
wow.
for myself, and I started thinking, why are we only focused on people with disabilities? Everything that we're doing, it applies across the board.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that kind of got me into thinking, what does my own stuff kind of look like? And so day to day, it looks like a lot of conversations, a lot of conversations like this one, a lot of working with some amazing collaborators on developing exercises and developing ways to help people, and um, also a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff that you guys saw in the conference,
Yeah.
I do all that stuff
For
on
yourself.
myself.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, right? Because you're putting it out there as a
Yeah.
brand and a product,
Yes.
so you have to, and it always is growing and evolving and changing, so you have to grow and evolve and change with it. And I think we do that a lot here on Don't Burn the Day too, because we don't necessarily want to be just a disability podcast. We want to we call ourselves and we claim that we're an inclusive podcast because we want everybody to listen. We don't always talk about disability issues. We talk about everything. We run the
Life.
gamut. Go ahead.
Life in general.
Just life in general, yeah, for everybody. Because do we want to be put in a box? No, so we don't put our show in a box.
Nope.
You know, really and truly, I want you to, if there's a, I don't know if there's a way to do this, but if there's a Cliff Notes version of the exercise that you did with us via the session, is there a way we could do that over the next maybe minute or so?
Yeah. Let
Even
me make sure. So you want to do the bringing loneliness to life one?
yeah, if we can, I think that would be great. I mean, is that
Yeah.
give
No,
you
I've
time
got.
enough to do it?
I think we've got time, and so
Cool.
because we're gonna move through it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
What I would say is what we're gonna focus on is we're gonna focus on the one side of this, and we're not gonna focus on the other side. And
Okay.
guess what, people? It's gonna be the side that you probably don't want to deal with.
Yeah, but we love bringing the hard stuff to the forefront. So bring it on. Let's go.
Yeah. So okay,
Yes.
what you're gonna do if you're listening or if you're watching, go ahead and close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, I just want you to breathe whatever normal breathing is, nothing too deep. Just take in some breaths. And as you're breathing, I want you to think about your experience of loneliness. I want you to just let that in and let it sit there for a minute. And then as you just keep breathing, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. And then all you have to do is reflect on these questions. And there is no right, wrong, good, bad answer. Whatever comes up is supposed to come up for you. So here we go. When I experience loneliness, I see. So when you're in that feeling of loneliness, what is it that you see? Maybe it could be a dark room. Maybe it could be nothing. But what is it that you see?
Do you want me to repeat my answers from the session that we did?
So let's talk. I'll ask the questions and then you can reflect back what came up for you.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. All right. So we know what you see now. Now I want you to be in this experience of loneliness. And I want to ask you, what do you hear? Now, this could be silence, could be a lot of people yelling, but what is it that you hear? It could even be your own voice. All right, now, I want you to imagine sitting in front of you is a box of crayons. And right now, it has one crayon in this box. And you go to the table, you open up the box, and you pull it out. What is that crayon that is named on the side of it there? It says lonely. What color is that crayon? So we know what you see, we know what you hear, we know what color now that you see and you associate with it. Now, I want you to think of loneliness as an inanimate object. What is that object that appears in front of you? It could be a rock, it could be a dog, it could be a person, it could be a chair. But what is it that you see as an object that represents your loneliness? And then what are the things that you're saying to yourself in this experience? What are you saying to yourself? And finally, we know what you see, we know what you hear, we know what that color is, and we know now what you say to yourself and what this object is. I want you to give this experience a name. Could be something simple like Lonely Larry, the sad dog. I don't know, but whatever comes up for you is what's supposed to come up for you. And so that is one side of that exercise.
Okay. Woo. Well, that's emotional and very telling and very real. And every time you do it, it still brings to the forefront things that and I wish that anybody who wants to connect with Nathan after the show, please let him, if you personally meet with him, let him do the other side of that, because it's a really great experience. But we are going to talk about our experience within the session and within just a few minutes ago, and talk about what we, our experiences with loneliness and that kind of exercise. So yeah, AJ, you want to go first since
Oh,
yeah, I'm making, come on, buddy, come on, you're the host, right? Come on.
That brought up some stuff.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't be the only one letting it all out here. Let's go.
It made me look at places I try to show down.
So what was the color? So what is
Red.
it? Red. Okay.
Or it's a mixture between gray and red.
So what were the things? What were the feelings and stuff that it evoked? What he was talking about? What did you feel when you saw the color?
Not being good enough or able to do stuff.
What did you say to yourself? What are those things?
Like just that there were stuff I'm unable to do that other people can just get up and do it very, very easily.
Right. What about the things that, what was the object that you equated it to? Oh, buddy, are you crying? Oh my gosh.
Hey, it's all good. That's release is what's happening.
That's great. I'm so happy for you.
But yeah, I equated it to a chair and being tied down to a chair and not being able to move as freely.
Yeah, well, when you did you do the other side of the episode of the exercise with him in the session?
No, that was when my computer
Stop.
was.
Oh, then you need to do the other side.
Yeah, we need to get you on the other side.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Okay. Well, now since you know AJ spoke about his, I'll be very open and speak about mine. Mine is usually the same feelings of anxiety and not being good enough, and you know not being a good enough mother, not being a good enough wife, not being a good enough podcast host, not being good enough at my job, you know, just those kind of negative thoughts. And the thing that I equated it to was a brick,
Yeah.
just kind of tying me down. And the color I equated it to is gray. I think these were a lot of the same things that I said, but every time I do it, it's the same. So it's you know, just a brick, and the color is gray, and there's a lot of negative feelings that are you know equated with it. Like I can't, which is not a word that I normally say, but when I'm asked to focus on that, the word comes up. I can't. I won't. I'll never. Those type
Yeah.
of things. Well, and you don't know the positive side of this yet, AJ, but I promise you will. My positive, because I've already done this with you in the session, is my color is white. My words that equate with it are I will, I can, it's possible, I'm a badass. Okay. And the happy sounds that I hear are my children laughing, and the color is white, because white to me evokes happiness and pleasure and just calm. And so, and the inanimate object is a tree because it's always growing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I love this because I've started doing it enough that I start to see correlations. And I think there are some beautiful things to talk about here on both sides. And I think what's unique to talk about in this context is like this disability, no disability. There are common things that come up with
Yeah.
every single person, regardless of circumstance. But AJ, as you talked about your experience in the chair, first off, a chair comes up really, really often.
Yeah.
Like I've had somebody say it's a chair in a desert. I've had somebody exactly like you said say it's a chair that's strapped to the ground. And I would ask anybody here that has a disability to think about this, and especially if you use a chair for mobility.
Yeah, we both do.
I think it's interesting because how often do people without thinking about it say that we're wheelchair bound?
Oh, I hate that though.
Yeah.
But like, so that to me is a perfect example of that experience. And
That's
I say that so people actually can see that the words that we use
can keep us down.
are extremely powerful. So if anybody's out there and you use the phrase wheelchair bound, because you know we're all gonna still hear that phrase. Let's be for real.
31 years past the ADA and we're still hearing it every day.
It has consequences when you hear it over and over.
Oh,
and
yeah,
over.
absolutely. I mean, and you know, we talk a lot on the show about education and letting people know that it's possible to do anything, you know, you want to do, you know, chair or no chair, disability, no disability. But let's face it, out in the world, you know, when you go out, if you don't look like the typical person, then you are equated to what they think you are. And they might not be educated. And it's our job as advocates to do that. You know, so a lot of times we hear wheelchair bound, or we see the sad faces, or we, you know, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or
are you?
or it's good to see you out.
Yeah, like those kind of
Yeah.
things, you know,
It's
and
like it's like where else would I be?
my partner is able-bodied ambulatory, and he, you know, we've been together for a while now, and every time we go out, we always, it doesn't matter, we always get a compliment. Oh, it's so nice that you take care of her. And we're like, I have to
Yeah.
stop in my tracks, because I'm like, excuse me, wait, whoa. First of all, okay, I take care of him. We take care of it. Like, we take care of each other, you know? It's not just one person doing it. We are a team, and it's great.
And here's the interesting thing about that, right? Because there are certain things where I'm probably on the opposite side of a lot of people with disabilities myself in the way that I think about things, and
Yeah.
it's always like, okay, that is the reality of what's happening,
Okay.
but here's the other side.
We want to hear it all. We want to hear it all. So
Yeah,
bring it.
here's the other side to that. I think what happens a lot is when people come up to us as people with disabilities, I think part of the reason why we get some of the adverse responses that we do is because in reality, what we are providing that person in that moment is a mirror of their own humanity.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's good. Oh, goodness, that's good.
yeah, we are a mirror of their humanity, and so it's something that they are not ready to face in that moment, and that equates to the responses that they give us. But I'm also on the opposite end of like I'm big on, I wear a lot of my beliefs in my clothes that I make, and I've got one that says inspiration porn on the t-shirt.
I love it. I want it.
And here's why. Like, for a very long time, I used to hate when people would come up and say, Nathan, you're so inspiring.
I don't like that.
Because they probably said it in the time when AJ was talking to his imaginary person over there that told him it's good to see you out. That's probably also when they said you're so inspiring, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But let me ask you this. Do you actually have control over whether or not somebody calls you inspiring?
No.
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 Ooh, that's good too. Mic drop on that one.
You don't have any control over what they say about you being inspiring, but what you have control over 100% of is what you take it to mean and what power you give that statement. And so as long as I'm being 100% myself, if you call me inspiring,
That's great.
that's awesome.
True.
And so I think all of this stuff and everything that I try and do is challenging a belief.
Yeah. I think that even though it's really hard for me, because I don't like to be called I don't like to be called inspirational. Just because I'm just a person trying to live my life and trying to be, you know, trying to be the best mom, trying to be the best partner, trying to be the best daughter, trying to be the best sister, all of that. And I don't know, maybe my mind has shifted over today, but I really honestly, I mean, explain to me why, everybody has to say that because, oh, you're such an inspiration because you surf. Oh, you're such an inspiration because you are working on a book. Oh, you're such an inspiration because you're a mom. Oh, you're such an inspiration because you have a quote unquote normal relationship. And all of those things are just what I want to do in my normal life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, again, I think for me, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It goes back to, again, they are faced with a reflection of
Yeah.
themselves in us, and
Right.
so their whole thought is, "Holy shit, would I be able to do that if that was me?"
Mm. Push through the struggle, right?
Like as simple as it may seem to us, and guess what? Hey, we've lived with this our entire life, so we don't have another frame of reference.
Yeah.
But ask somebody who may have received their disability later in life, and ask them to have this conversation too, because it's going to be, they have to go through, oh shit, there is stuff that I have to figure out how to do differently.
Right.
And
And
we,
Um,
we have just kind of been molded because we don't know any different. Like this is our normal, And you're right. You're absolutely right. And um, I sometimes when I'm in my feelings um, and really thinking about like, is it possible? I look at I look at people that have spinal cord injuries, and I think, you know, yeah, this happened to them, but they like don't have as many issues as we do with people who have CP because they look normal. And but the bottom line is everybody has their own issues, and so it needs the paradigm needs to shift, and we all just need to kind of come together as a group and love on each other. And that's why I love having you on the show so much,
exactly.
because it's really important for people to know that.
and like the reality is, it's okay to have differences of opinion.
Right.
I think we lose that a lot too, and this is talked about a lot in the disability community, but we're not all a monolith.
Right.
There isn't one story that represents disability as a whole.
No.
It's a unique story for every single individual that has a disability, and also all of the people that are in their life.
Right.
Uh,
Hey, quick question off topic. Can you guys see me okay?
Yeah.
Because for
yes.
some reason my screen went out, and yeah, so you can only hear me. I can't see you guys, but you can hear me. That's good.
Yeah.
Just making sure. Anyway, we'll continue, no problem. Um Technical issues happen. Anyway, yeah, I really believe that's true, and that's why I'm so glad you came on today. And it's you know, it's really eye opening, and I want it to be for our listeners as well and our viewers. But talk about, you talk to people all the time about their loneliness, but and this might be rough, okay? But I'm the girl to ask the questions. so,
Yes.
so what makes Nathan Nathan? What makes Nathan lonely? What makes Nathan happy? What makes Nathan who you are?
Yeah. That's a great
Dun
question.
dun 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 dun.
So let's start with where you guys kind of started. So whenever I do the exercise, it's interesting. I get one or two images that usually pop up for me. And one is definitely my couch. Um, when I'm experiencing loneliness, I envision that couch, and I envision getting sucked into that couch, like nobody can see me or hear me. And, that came from that experience of trying to get a job for over a year. That's where that kind of came from.
Right.
And the other thing that comes up is, oddly enough, a chair, and it's in a dark room with like a spotlight over the chair.
Yeah.
And so it's just me sitting in that chair, and it's like an echo chamber. It's kind of like when I was talking, I talked about the loneliness loop, right?
Yeah.
Being in that echo chamber gives you nowhere else to go but to sit in that loop. So that is my experience of loneliness. And then what makes me feel really connected is conversations,
Yeah.
and actually being able to hold space
With another
for
person.
other people. That's really stuff that kind of gives me energy. um, COVID has been honestly one of the greatest gifts.
Yeah, that's the same thing I have to say about, and I think AJ could say the same thing about Don't Burn the Day. We've actually grown as a
Yes.
podcast and as a business because of COVID. And you know, like you said, it's been a gift. So tell us about your gifts that COVID has given you.
Well, I mean, that all this loneliness stuff kind of hit. Like, loneliness has been becoming a thing for a long time, but when you're forced to stay in one place for a long time, it actually, like, that experience just kind of, everybody at a certain point was like, how do I connect, and how can I even do it in a virtual world? So it it gave me a platform to start talking more, and for it to be viable, for uh, to give people a space to talk about loneliness. And the other thing, without COVID, I probably wouldn't have been a speaker at the conference, so we wouldn't even be having this conversation. And I've met some of the most amazing people, and it only happened because, well, for me, Clubhouse got created.
I gotta check into that Clubhouse because a lot of people are talking about
Yes.
that.
Yeah, like, so that kind of got really hot in January,
Right.
and my experiences, they were, I don't know, I haven't been on it too often lately, but they were really pushing to create a as inclusive space as possible, and
Mhm.
they were listening a lot to the disability community, but it gave me a space to meet people from all over that I wasn't meeting on any other social media platform.
Right.
And I think for people with disabilities, the greatest gift in Clubhouse is the fact that it's only um, an audio
Situation.
application.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Um, because a lot like me, I think you're a Southern boy too, right?
Yeah.
We are. Well, AJ's in Georgia and I'm in Florida, so yeah, it takes a lot for us to connect with people, especially since COVID and before COVID. Like I was the girl who traveled and loved to do things and visit people and go places. Even despite despite my chair and my disability, I wanted to always go and touch and feel and do and see. So once COVID hit, I was like, ew, what am I gonna do? Like I
Yeah.
really thought I was going to, I honestly and seriously thought I was going to fall into a pit of despair because my husband was going off to work, and yes, I had work, but it had shifted and changed a little bit, and then AJ invited me to be co-host of the show because of an interview that we did together, and a lot of people kind of took to that interview, and he twisted my arm to be on video and be a co-host
Yeah.
because even though even though I was a motivational speaker, I didn't want to kind of put my life out there, like my personal life, and be on camera. But after a lot of arm twisting, he did it. And
Oh yes.
you know, then came COVID, and honestly, we've kind of skyrocketed because this is what we do now, and it's given me an outlet, honestly, because despite everything that I do, I never really got to talk as openly about my disability. um Even though I was Miss Wheelchair Florida 2010 and I traveled and I did all those things, I never really talked about what it was really like at home, and talking about my disability and what day-to-day life is. And I feel like Don't Burn the Day has given both AJ and I a platform to be real about our disability, and it kind of has opened us both up about it.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the greatest things, and this isn't COVID related, but since you were talking about like the sharing of your story, I went to a conference, what is it now, 4 or 5 years ago. And it was a conference for entrepreneurs. Like at that point, I was working at the Center for Independent Living, and my buddy had gotten an extra ticket because we were working on a project together. And that's how he paid. He's like, hey, here's part of your payment. I bought you this ticket. We're going to this conference. And, the first time I went there, I was like, what the hell am I doing here?
Right.
I'm just a guy who works at a nonprofit. These
Right.
people are running successful businesses
Yeah.
and doing all these fancy things. But as I met people, what I realized is the power in sharing exactly where you're at and what you've got. And over time, what happened for me there was I went to, first off, standing in long conference lines, not fun for somebody who has stamina
No,
issues.
it's really not, honestly.
So over the time period, I decided, okay, I'm taking a wheelchair.
Right.
And I said, okay, I know that I can walk around, but I'm taking the wheelchair everywhere for this conference, regardless of what it is. I'm just going to show up and use the chair. And it was like, the thought was, guess what? I'm probably going to be the only person here that is using a wheelchair.
And you
And
were wrong.
well, so yeah, there was one other person.
Oh, really? I thought. Oh, okay. I was wrong then. Okay, maybe so.
Yeah, there was one other person that used a wheelchair. But here's the thing. I knew that I had the opportunity to change somebody's view
Yep.
of what they thought was possible
Exactly.
with living a life with a disability, just by showing up and using the chair and having a fun time.
Yeah.
Experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever we talk to anybody, or whenever either of us do anything in the realm of inspiration, quote unquote inspiration, or anything like that, or even on the show, we always say, if we can, we don't have to touch 1 million people. We don't have to have 1 million subscribers on the YouTube channel. We don't have to have 1 million people like our Facebook page or our website. But if one person, if their ideals have changed about disability and about CP, or we can answer any question, and that changes and that shifts their paradigm, then we've done our job for the day, and that's okay with me.
Yeah, and even if you make a change for one person, imagine if that one person was somebody like Tony Robbins.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
And think about the opportunity of, like, you just impacted way more than one person.
Yeah, because it's a domino effect. You then impact the people that he impacts as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk a lot about Tony Robbins, don't you, Age?
I sure do. because I've had the pleasure to walk on fire
Yeah.
Okay.
one of his events. So, yeah.
More power to you, man.
I know. He tells me that, and I'm like, shit. I do a lot, but I wouldn't do that. Go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And yeah, like that's the whole thing is you have the power to make a bigger difference than you probably ever realize, anybody listening. But often I talk about a couple of core things in my coaching,
Yeah.
and two of those major things are to do any of this and to get the connection you want in your life, it requires that you be courageous and that you risk rejection.
Yeah.
And sometimes even that rejection that you might be putting yourself at risk for could be rejection from yourself.
Ooh, that's another truth bomb, y'all. Y'all better listen up, because that hit me different, I guess, because you're so right. Like it's so true.
How do you turn off self-talk and self-negativity about
Get it,
about,
AJ?
about yourself when it goes around like a record player? How how do you get it? How do you get it to stop?
Did you
Yeah,
did you get
you
all that,
don't.
Nathan?
Yeah, I say you don't, man. It's gonna play, but here's what you do. You're not gonna stop it. It's just like we talked in the conference, right? We talked about we have those 60,000 thoughts a day. 48 of them, 48,000 of them are negative, right?
Mm.
And ultimately what that's trying, your brain is just wanting you to survive. And so it's like, oh, don't do this because it might kill you.
Right.
But here's what you do. And I don't know if you were able to participate in this one, but this is where that inner voice exercise comes up, because what it does
Okay.
is it throws off your story even for a second to be like, wait a minute. Yeah, AJ, that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, talking to the person. Didn't you say something about like name that person, and they tell you like
Yeah, I mean, let's just do it. Like,
yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We have time. Let's do it.
all right, so everybody, this is the podcast. If you're
It's
you're
cool. Like,
driving,
we're good. Hey, you're the only host. You're the only guest we have for today. We're good. Like
yeah, well, what I'm saying is if you're driving and you're listening to this, make sure you do the exercises afterwards, okay?
Yeah, don't drive and do this exercise, please.
Yeah.
Don't drive and close your eyes. But okay, go ahead and get your eyes closed again. And get back to breathing. And you've got this voice, you're having a conversation with it all day, whether you're saying words out loud or not. It's happening. It's running around. It's telling you things. But I want you to think about what that voice sounds like. And not what is that voice saying to you, not what is the conversation that you're having, but actually what does it sound like? And so does that voice sound like you're having a conversation with yourself? Maybe it sounds like you're having a conversation with one of your parents. Maybe it's a spouse, a significant other. Maybe it's a child. Maybe it's a bully you had when you were in elementary school. But what does that voice sound like? And just take that in for a minute. Do you guys have your voices? Do you know what it sounds like?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and pause. You can go ahead and open your eyes and we'll talk about what that sounds like for you guys right now.
Parental, for me, it's parental fears, parental parental wishes, parental fears. I can't because they would be scared, or something's gonna happen to me, or you know, parentals don't do that because it's just it's much like you said. Don't do that because don't do that. Even though my mom was always the most supportive person and advocate in my corner, I think, and I've said this very often on the podcast, I think she kind of put me in a box, and always has, even in my, in my 40, and yeah, I'm 40, so I'm aging myself, but I've done that on the show many times, so I'm not worried about it. But yeah, it's just the parental stigma that comes with that, and that's the voice I hear. It's always like, I can't, even though she wants me, and she wants me to be successful in high school, college, all of that, and even in life, but she's like, I just want you to be careful, and she's like, if I could, I'd keep you in a bubble, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I am absolutely not the one that's gonna stay in your damn bubble. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah. So
yeah,
okay, we got the parent voice. AJ, what was your voice?
And for me, it was the judgment of how other people would see me.
So it was yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I tried something and failed, and people would say, I told you that would work, or why did you do it this way? You should have done it
the way I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so now we've got those senses of the voices, right? So now we're gonna close our eyes again.
Okay.
And as you close your eyes this time, I want you to actually take a deep breath in, and then when we breathe out here, what I want you to do is you're breathing out that voice. You're letting that voice go, the voice you just talked about. So take a deep breath in and release it. Okay, now that it's gone, it's away, I want you to now think about a new voice. So with your eyes closed, I want you to think about a new voice. And what I want you to think about this voice and the way that it sounds is, this voice is the most ridiculous voice you've ever heard in your life.
Mickey Mouse.
Like, could it be a voice like Gilbert Godfrey? It could be Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Popeye the Sailor Man. I've even had somebody say that I'm their voice for them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think you said Gilbert Godfrey was yours, Nathan, and I even said in our exercise in the conference that mine was Mickey Mouse. So yeah, it still is.
And so AJ, what's your voice?
Yeah, AJ, what's your voice?
The same with you, Gilbert Godfrey.
You like his voice? It makes you laugh, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the point, and this goes back to that playing of that record, right, AJ? So now you've got this record playing. It was all those conversations you were having before, but now imagine you come to a skip in the record, and that skip is Gilbert Godfrey being like, AJ, you can't do it. I'm not even gonna pretend to try and do the voice.
See? Now, AJ, every time you tell me you can't, I'm gonna remind you of Gilbert Godfrey and be like, what's he telling you today?
Okay.
Yeah, and it's about getting out of the head, right? And having the full body experience. Like, there's so much that happens that has nothing to do with up here, but we give this so much power, and it's like, okay, how do we just disrupt it for a minute?
Yeah.
Be like, wait a minute, that isn't
That's
even
silly.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to honestly, I have to stop myself a lot of times because there are a lot of times, you know, when I was becoming a mom and I first found out I was pregnant, and we had a guest last night on the show, really get deep with me and ask me what parenthood was like in the beginning and throughout. And I was real and I said, you know what? It's hard, but it's the hardest thing, but it's also the most rewarding thing. And we, you know, we grew up together and learned each other, because both of my kids are ambulatory and able bodied, and so you know, all kids don't come with a manual. So when I first found out I was pregnant, I was kind of like in that oh shit moment. But
Yeah.
as I moved through and I realized we can do this, I still have to do that a lot of the times. And now they're 14 and 16 years old, and even now, I find myself going, wow, you know, they're in a transitioning phase, and am I going to be able to do this? You know,
Yeah.
am I going to be able to raise teenagers? Like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. Like, what the hell? But I have to go, wait a minute, I can do this. We've done it. We're, you know, yeah, we went through a lot of adversity, but we're doing it. And I
Yeah.
am so, you know, I'm so proud of them. They're my greatest, you know, they're my greatest blessing in life and the greatest gift. And, you know, as long as we make it, then we make it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
No, and yeah, you've done it for 16 years. So
ooh, that's, can you, like, that really makes me feel old because I have a almost 16-year-old next month, and wow.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, it's absolutely insane that we've made it this far, and they're alive and they're happy, healthy beings.
yeah, they're alive, you're alive, everybody's doing pretty
We're
good.
doing good. We're doing good.
Yeah.
They're on track in school. They're doing amazing. They're beautiful. So I am like tap myself on the back a little bit, and my village, because we've gotten this far. We've gotten this far. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
and a lot of people, you know, they question, how's it possible? How's it possible? Well, how do you think it's possible? I mean, what happens? I'm not
It's
gonna
like
I'm not gonna
yeah.
answer those kind of questions,
Yeah.
but
It's like
go ahead.
how's it possible for them?
Yeah,
It's same way it's possible for you. It's
yeah, and
possible.
especially now that they're older, they are realizing that people look at me different when, you know, if we're out in public or whatever, and they're like, "Mom, why?" And I'm like, "Because they just they're uneducated, and it's our chance to tell them." And they, you know, they're learning too, and that's what I'm so proud of, because they have an empathy for others with disabilities that goes beyond anything that I could have ever wanted for them,
That's awesome.
you know. And they still love riding on my wheelchair even though they're 14 and 16. So it's a little crazy.
Oh.
But
The battery gets, is it a power chair or a manual?
yeah, it's a power chair.
The battery probably gets killed pretty quickly.
Absolutely it does, but you know what? It's cool because if they get tired, I'm like, okay, they'll hop on the back and we'll just ride around, and they think it's the coolest shit. And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right. And
My
then they're like,
brother,
huh?
my brother takes a skateboard and holds onto the back of my chair.
Yeah, Casey has a skateboard and holds onto the back of AJ's chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so those kind of things, you know, it just makes me proud to raise two little advocates, and
Yeah.
they don't see me any different because I'm just their mom. They've known this just like I knew it from birth. They've known it from birth, and I often get the question, what, you know, if you could take the pill to take it away, would you? And I'm like, no,
Nope.
because, like, first of all, why would you be that cruel to only take it away from me for one day, and then I'd have to, you know, have it back? So Like that'd be really cool. But CP has made me who I am, and I think it has shaped AJ, and obviously it's shaped you. And so we all have that common bond. And I really, really just love the fact that you're on today to kind of reiterate that it's okay. It's okay. And we all have the feelings and emotions. And, you know, a lot of times, like I was saying earlier, I am an empath and I do get, you know, pretty emotional about things. And it sometimes my life can get pretty hard. And we had a guest on yesterday that talked about how hard it is in those moments. And I'm really, really hard on myself because I'm a type A personality. And I get really hard on myself a lot of times when I feel like I failed or I feel like I'm not, you know, I'm not where I want to be. But then I have to remember, look how far you've come. So, and I think you, Nathan, always kind of bring me back there too. Ever since we kind of connected at the conference, and even today, you bring me back to a point where look how far you've come. You're not the only one. It's going to be okay. You know?
Yeah. And it goes back to, I think one of the key things is also the fact that even something like this show, the idea of having a co-host, having two co-hosts, is the fact that you guys get to connect with each other on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And like I talked about, one of the things is always having somebody that you feel like you can connect with to talk about things. I call it the connection buddy. And it's really having that person where you come to an agreement and you say, hey, if you don't hear from me by this amount of time, there's something going on.
Yeah.
And just call me or do whatever you guys agree to.
Yeah.
Like, especially now, but if you could like go to their house and like, okay, I'm gonna kick down this door. If I don't hear from you. Instead
Well,
of saying,
even though he lives 6 hours away, he knows I would if I don't hear from him. So it's all good. He knows I'll be there.
yeah, and it's like getting rid of that idea of call me if you need me.
Yeah. So I mean, you do, and we're connected on Instagram now. So you do daily check-ins. Now I really like the idea of that. But do you? And you do check-ins with everybody else. But how often does Nathan check in with Nathan and go, is this really where I want to be? Is this really what I want to do?
Yeah. I feel like this is gonna sound interesting, I bet, to some people, but I feel like a lot of times I'm doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for anybody else.
Okay.
I'm asking the question or having the reflection because it's something that I'm going through that I just want to put out there. There's, you know, with all the stuff that was happening yesterday, so we're recording on the 5th. Yesterday, the world imploded and Facebook and Instagram and all that shut down. And you know, it made me think of this idea of all of our numbers and like how consumed people seem to be about getting followers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things I've been thinking about today is creating an image that's like just a blank phone number. Because those are the actual numbers that actually matter. Because as this was happening, I was starting to think, okay, if all this goes away, because they could at some point they could just be like, yeah, we don't want to do this anymore. We're done.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy to think, but yeah, you're right.
So could I actually contact the people that I've formed all these relationships with if I wanted to? No.
Yeah.
because I don't necessarily have their phone number.
That's kind of sad though, isn't it?
It's
Yeah. It's
uh,
like, what,
If you think about it.
it's like we're so connected through social media that when it's down for a short period of time, we don't know what to do because
Mhm.
our lives are so intertwined with social media.
Yeah. Oh, that made, Nathan, that question that you posed, or that theory that you posed, just made me think a lot, because like I have connections outside of social media in the real world. I have friends, but honestly, the ones that I'm the most close to are now on social media,
Yeah.
because they do what I do, and a lot of them have disabilities, and a lot of them have CP. And before, much like your story, before college, I was the girl who didn't have a lot of friends that had CP because I didn't want to be different. I
Yeah.
didn't see myself as different. I
Yeah.
saw I only claimed my wheelchair as something that I used to get around, and that's still true. But
Yeah.
I have connected with so many amazing people who have disabilities and have platforms, that I truly have connected with them, and that would be devastating to me to lose those connections.
So sounds like there's some work that you get to do there.
Yes, you're right. Get to work.
Yep.
And so I I have this loneliness solution. That's my coaching program,
Mm.
where we have 8 people who spend 12 weeks together. It's all virtual.
I do want to talk about that, so I'm glad you brought it up.
And what happens is it starts out like we just recently finished the first group.
Okay.
And so I knew a lot of the people that were in this first group. Like I knew them really, really well. But
Right.
what was interesting is how human we all are. There are people with disabilities, people without disabilities. And it's hard. It is hard to share some of the stuff that really, really gets in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I saw happen there were people that really embraced the idea of putting themselves at risk and being courageous and sharing things about themselves, that even when they did it and I knew some of the stuff that was going on, I was like, wow, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
That this is happening. This is a huge deal. And what I saw over that time period was people that now I have a a part of the program is going out to whatever degree you can and taking index cards or post-it notes and writing notes of encouragement
Yeah.
Oh
on
my gosh,
the
I want to do it now.
yeah, so you write notes of encouragement and you put them in public places for strangers to find. You don't give them to anybody. You just
Oh, I
leave
want to
them.
do it now.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Ah,
Um,
wow. I want to do it now. That like just ignited my heart. I'm like, woo, I want to do it. Let's go. Um,
Yeah. And so that's
such a great.
something
Go
that
ahead.
made one of the biggest differences. And the other thing is the idea of saying those things to yourself.
Oh, yeah. But it's more difficult when you have to say them to yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's,
So
I got quiet because that's like real true for me. I can say it all day to other people, and I can see it, and I'm
yeah.
gonna be real transparent here. and I can see it in other people all the time, and I say it and I try to be that encourager, but a lot of times when people say it to me, I don't believe it.
All right. Hold on. Let me. I don't know if you guys. I don't remember. I don't think this was part of the packet. So I just want to ask a couple more questions, and this
Yeah.
is just to reflect on.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're here for it. Go for it.
So the number one week number one, you guys are getting sneak peeks of kind of what some of the process looks like a
Oh,
little
I
bit.
want to be in the program, so I mean, I'm excited to know.
It's still gonna. I'm not asking you everything.
Okay, cool. Okay, good.
Yeah, that would take a long time. But one of the biggest things, and I talked about this in my talk, one of the biggest labels that we're ever labeled with, regardless of our circumstances, who we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And often that story is created at first by other people in your life.
Mhm.
But yet you, to some degree, decide to accept whatever part of that to be true for yourself. And so
Ooh.
you have this idea of,
Whoa.
oh, okay, gotcha. You have this idea of who you're supposed to be. And so it could be, I'm supposed to be married by the time I'm 30. I'm supposed to come out and have a job by the time I finish college.
Hang on 1 second. I'm gonna step away. Somebody's at my door, but I hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So you have all these things that you're supposed to be. So part of the deal is peeling back those labels, right? And it's asking the questions that actually get you to dig into, okay, what is the real story of who I'm supposed to be, and why do I believe that? So I just want to ask a couple of questions. And number one, the question is, who are you supposed to be?
Ooh.
When you think about that, who are you supposed to be? And like we're not gonna have answers on this show. Like this is just stuff to think about. So after you figure out who you're supposed to be, or who you think you're supposed to be, then it's like, well, when you think about that person, how do you feel?
When I really think about the person that I want to be, or the person I am?
No, the person you believe you're supposed to be.
I feel hella good about the person that I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
Like, because she's everything that I ever dreamed of being, you know? She's got a successful business. She's the badass mom that can do everything at the drop of a dime. She's a great wife and a great friend, and like everything rolled into one. And it's like but you're never gonna hit that pinnacle. You're never gonna hit that point because you're just human, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you take into account Matthew McConaughey's advice, right, about your hero, you're never gonna meet your hero because he's always in front of you.
Oh, that's so good. Why do you come up with all these truth bombs? And I'm like, what?
Hey, I didn't come up with that one. But here's the other thing. The question is, when you think about who you're supposed to be, a lot of times people don't necessarily like who they believe they're supposed to be because they didn't decide who that was. They were given that as a kid, and then they think that that's what has to happen. Like people who think, I have to go to school, I have to go to college, or I have to be a doctor, I have to be a lawyer.
Well, I kind of see it different. I mean, and I'm not going to say like I oppose your view or whatever, but I kind of see it differently because yeah, you can stand in the points of your, whoever you know, whether it be a parental unit who said this is what you should do, but I kind of adopted a long time ago that, you know, I wasn't necessarily gonna be who they all wanted me to be. I just wanted to be a good enough person and a good enough Shannon to at some point have somebody go, you know what? Wow, that chick is pretty cool because
Yeah.
she knows herself. And I'm still learning at 40 years old about myself every day. You know, I learn, you know, today I've been taught a lot of lessons through the message, and you know, the weekend I was taught a lot of lessons through the message, but it's finally letting go of the societal pressures that are like, you're going to be this person, and just embracing who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I agree with that 100%. And I think you're steps above, like steps ahead of many, many people. So we ask a lot of questions about that. So there's this, I like to do side by side. So we kind of uncover this idea of who you've been taught you're supposed to be, right? And then it's looking at, okay, if this is who I'm supposed to be, who's the real me underneath all this other stuff that I've put on top of myself that's standing in the way? And I call that my trademark self. So who's that trademark version of me, who it sounds like when you, Shannon, think about the idea of who you're supposed to be, I would say that that's probably, in my perspective, that's, you're talking more about the trademark version of who, like the real you at the core.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, ideally, I'm sure my parents would have, you know, they want me to be this, you know, you talked about, you know, being married by 30 and having, you know, those societal pressures were put, even though I have a disability, those societal pressures were still put on me, and you're supposed to, you know, go to college, meet your husband, you know, have babies, and you know, don't speak until you're spoken to, and be polite. Oh. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. All those things. Well, I am the girl with no filter. I will tell you like it is. Yes. I am in the mood. Okay. Like I just, you know, and I realized at an early age, and I'm, like I said, I'm just now embracing the fact that I don't have to be what all those people said that I have to be. Yeah. I can be Shannon, and it's a beautiful feeling to finally be embracing myself after all these years, because for so long I heard those voices in my head say, this is who you're going to be, this is who you have to be, you know, don't say that, or be nice, or you know, and like I still catch myself, and even some of my best friends still say, like, are you putting on makeup to go see your mom? Yeah, because those are pressures that you have to look a certain way, you have to be a certain way, you have to hold yourself a certain way. And I don't necessarily do that anymore. You know, I'm just Shannon, and I love who I'm becoming, you know?
Yeah, I talked about that after the conference the other day. Like, I was just like, I'm wearing a beanie and a t-shirt, okay?
Love it.
That's who I'm gonna be today. Yes, I can dress up in a suit, but I don't have to, and it doesn't change anything that I'm bringing to the table.
No, absolutely
not.
So yeah, this has been amazing.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on. We love you. Please come back. We hope you love our little show. We're small in stature, but we're mighty in reach. So we hope that you enjoyed your time with us, and that you want to come back. And go ahead.
How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah.
How can people find where you are and who you are and all of the things?
Yeah, so Instagram, I'm the real Nathan Todd, and on Facebook you can look up the Loneliness Coach. And also I know this will go out after, but we're probably going to have more conversations. I run a group on Clubhouse that we talk about sexy and disabled.
Yes, boy. Yes.
And so I do that with my friend, Dr. Michelle Finan, and we talk about all different types of issues that come up with relationships, regardless if we're coming both from the disabled perspective, but a
Right.
lot of the things we talk about, they're just human
Yeah.
perspective. So on Clubhouse, I think it made me get rid of so Real Nathan Todd over there, and we'll be having I don't want to say weekly, but we have Clubhouse rooms over there. So if you follow me on any other thing, you'll see when that happens.
I want in on it. I want in. Like
Okay.
I want
Yeah,
it.
so we have one tomorrow.
Great.
Yeah. Mhm.
I do have a question.
Oh, are you gonna ask the infamous question, AJ?
Well, I have two questions.
Okay.
Okay, 2 questions.
Are you ICF
No.
approved or what how much is your training?
Yes. I
How
want to know that. So give the
how
information about your classes, Nathan.
Yeah, so the 3-month program is $1,000.
Okay. But since we know you, could we get the best friend podcast discount,
Please.
right?
Yeah, we can talk about what
Okay.
that looks like, but it's $1,000 for the 3 months.
Okay.
And I
If
have
people-
the certification of real life. That's the certification I have.
Oh, okay.
That's the best certification and the only one you really need to be in my circle.
Exactly.
So amazing. Yeah, you guys go look up the Real Nathan Todd, the loneliness coach, all the things. Go check him out on Clubhouse. Go like him on Facebook, all the things. And we hope that you will like Don't Burn the Day, and go check out our YouTube video when it goes live. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties we had halfway through. I hope everybody can still see me and it all worked out fine.
Yes.
But anyway, I just want to thank Nathan profusely again for coming on and spending his time with us today. And Nathan, we usually have the boss man take us out, but let us thank our sponsors, and then how about you tell everybody not to burn the day today? How about that?
Sounds good.
Hey, AJ, who do we have as our sponsors today?
We have Friendly Shoes.
That's right.
Thanks.
The stylish, adaptive, friendly shoes. And you guys, we got a pair. Each of us got a pair recently, and we love them. So we love the zippers on the side. If you have dexterity issues, you can just pull up the zippers. You don't have to worry about tying them. They are fantastic. Who else, AJ?
We have our discount code at pattyandricky.com.
That's right.
The marketplace for everything
Adaptive fashion.
adaptive fashion.
That's right. And the code is
DBT.
Go ahead.
DBTD10.
Yep. And it's still active, so you can go over there and site-wide you can get anything you want for 10% off. And say hi to Alex for us and wish her congratulations, because she just announced that she's having a baby boy, and we're so excited for her. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for coming on. Nathan, you're awesome. We love you. Stay connected with us, please. Let's collaborate some more. Please come back to the show if you want to. We'd love to have you back.
Yes.
And
Sure.
yeah, just thanks so much. And we usually have our guests tell people not to burn the day. So why don't you take us out with one today?
All right, look here. I know some of you will see this on camera, right? So look me in the eye the best you can, because you know what? Sometimes my eye, it will go over here. But no, I'm looking at you, okay? So here's my message for you today. Remember, don't burn the day.
Yes, we love it. Everybody, we'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your week.